So, I haven't used this channel in a while, but I'm going to call this on the scholarly side of things. Not addressing faith issues, just questions of, you know, looking at things kind of secularly. I have always had a problem with the dating of Paul's persecution of the Christians and his proximity to the life of Jesus, as well as the proximity of the students of John, like Polycarp, Ignatius of Antioch, and Papias. Were they the students of students? Because, Christ died around 33 AD. Maybe his students were in their 20s, right? Or even teens, possibly, because the Pharisees could have got pissed at him for corrupting the youth, not like the Socrates way, by, actually having sex with children, but, just corrupting the minds of them, of the apostles. That might be why the apostles didn't get executed. Peter possibly was older. The images that come down to us are correct. Scholars tend to think that they're wrong. The image of Christ that comes down to us is correct, and so is Peter and Paul, because look, Peter is always depicted with a full head of hair and a bushy beard, and Paul is always depicted with kind of a thin, almost goatee-like beard and balding, right? Now, or bald. But Ignatius dies in 108, right? And Polycarp is still alive after 108. Now, if I'm thinking the 1930s and nowadays, right? Like I'm living in Polycarp time. If Christ was in the 20th century, right? He would be dead in 1933 or 1935, if you want to do it that way. But at least by 35, Christ is dead, and possibly even Stephen was stoned by then. Then Paul comes along, right? So Paul had to be dead by what Paul was preaching through to the 60s, right? And then we have Clement, who they say Clement writes his letter in 98 AD, and we probably think he's pretty old because they say he still has the words of Peter and Paul in his ears, right? He was alive when they were alive, so that's fine. 30 years difference from, or maybe even 40, but 30 years difference, let's say, like the hippie generation, 1969. He's writing in 1998. I'm just putting a 19 in front of these dates, just to make it easier to understand or to grasp. Sometimes dates, they get away from us. But so then, I was born in 82, so I would have, I would have been fine and an adult to listen to Polycarp if I was born in 82 AD, right? Or 80, 82. So I'm just looking at the timeline. It can match up, but I think it feels like Paul should be a little bit later, right? Doesn't it? I mean, if he's not writing, well, his writings would have to be, they'd have to be in the 30s or 40s, but they seem like they're set in the 50s and 60s, right? AD 50s, 80s, 60s, or maybe even after the fall of the temple. But it just they I don't know. Does anybody else get that feeling, or see something strange about the first jump from the apostles to the church fathers? All right, peace to you. The Didache, I have no problem putting that early, as well as the Protevangelion, and I don't even see a problem putting some of these Gnostic things in the first century, because that's 40 years later, man. They're, and that, well, no, the Gnostic stuff, I don't know, maybe Thomas, but I can't see Thomas as early. It just doesn't seem early. It's using, it's borrowing from Luke, and the modifications he made from Q. You know, that's like putting. It's like what James at Pandora's Box wanted to do and say that Mark is after Matthew. It's not really possible. It's like saying we learned, that we learned how to make fire after the internal combustion engine. All right, peace to you.